Our revolutionary greetings, comrades. First of all, I want to give our thanks to our brother and comrade Seiko Kwame of the Brother Sister Organization Alliance Task Force for helping to organize this brief video update to our comrades on the political situation in Guinea Bissau as of today, the 16th of July 2025. As we're talking to you right now, the People's Party, the African Party of Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, PAIGC, along with its mass organizations, is on the proactive mode. That is to say, we're using one hand to organize the masses of our people, while we use the other hand to keep fighting against this neocolonial regime. And not even the whole hand to fight against it, just some of our fingers of that hand, while we use the other fingers to keep our people motivated, keep our people informed, as well as with the international community, particularly the revolutionary progressive forces of the world, so they know what's going on inside the homeland of Amilcar Cabral. And general elections are marked for the 23rd of November, even though it's violated the Constitution, it's violated all the laws that exist. But it's because the regime knows that if they have elections, even with all the cheating they've been able to do, they will still lose. Just like they did 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, when they denied the PhD of having propaganda, any type of campaign material, and then we had to change our logos. You see this PIGC flag, we couldn't use that on the ballot box, and not even that symbol that you see there, which we used to use all the time. That's what the people know. We had to use another logo. We had to use a house as a logo, and this was even a month before the elections. And then we'd have campaign material to go into the villages to explain to our people what the logo would be. And the enemy at the same time had millions of dollars worth of equipment, cars, computer systems. They were doing publicity on television, big television screens in the streets. They had banners, many motorcycles, cars, T-shirts, everything you could imagine they had. They were trying to buy people off, and they had already controlled the voter registration drive to their advantage. But even still, the almighty people made sure that they guarded the voter tables, and they were there from early in the morning till when the voting booths closed, and even assisted making sure that when the counting went on that they weren't able to cheat. And then they took pictures of the results to send in on social media so you could minimize the margin of maneuvers. And to make a long story short, the neocolonial regime was shocked. They thought that out of 102 seats, we would get no more than 15. And they said at most 19. But if we were to get 25 out of 102, that the neocolonial president said several times, ex-president said several times that he would resign. Well, we got the overwhelming majority. He still resigned. We're still waiting on that. Even though almost a year ago he announced they would not seek re-election. He gave a lot of different excuses. But I guess that the people were pulling the strings behind him, saying, no, you can't just give it that easy. Because they make money every day, so they have to make sure that he at least gives the semblance that he's doing some campaigning. And to do this campaign, he has to make sure that he tries to stop everybody else from campaigning. So there were times, even when we tried to do just even meetings with our structures, they would attack us with tear gas, would kidnap some of our people, torture them, imprison them. And of course, all types of intimidation schemes. They could come and having these tanks driving down the streets with, they still got hot water to spray on us. But even still, our people with our courage, after all the beatings, we still keep organizing. And as I'm talking to you right now, the Amilcar Cabral African Youth, JAC, which is the youth wing of the PIGC, is carrying out what they call a political agricultural campaign in the eastern part of Guinea-Bissau, where they are doing what Cabral used to do, producing with agriculture, at the same time doing political education, ideological training. And at the same time having marches to show that you can stop some of our marches, you can't stop all of them. Just like they did on African Liberation Day, from the 23rd to the 25th, when they met in Mores, in the northern part of the country, where they did a national convention. They had things dealing with African Liberation Day, things dealing with the ideology of the PIDC, things dealing with how you organize the mass of our people to transmit to the younger generation some of the things that the elder generation has learned from our culture. Meanwhile, the women's organization, the Democratic Union of Guinean Women, UDIMU, is continuing to do its organizing, doing its ideological training, as well as other types of capacitation, as well as doing political control visits to the different structures of UDIMU, while the PIGC, the African Party of Guinea Bissau and Cape Verde, is also doing its political control visits to different structures. Regionally, the regional structures are visiting the sector structures, which we have 42 inside of Guinea Bissau, and we have sectors in Europe, from France to Portugal, England to Luxembourg to Germany, Belgium, as well as the United States, as well as in Cape Verde, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea-Conakry. And the pioneers were struggling to make sure that we redevelop them because they had went down for a while. And so now, at the same time, I want to inform you that with the different international organizations, there's struggles going on there too. You can't just discard them. They have different factions. For example, there are some forces inside the United Nations Security Council that are against this regime's constant violations of the Constitution, and it's basic dictatorship. Whereas you have other factions that favor him, particularly those aligned with France. Then you'll have at the level of the African Union, similar situation. You have the president of Angola, John Lourenço, who is the president of the African Union. He's an ally of the PIGC. He's against this regime. And you also have inside the African Union what they call the Mediation and Human Rights, People's Rights Commission for Security, which also has different factions. Some are against this regime. You might have some who are either afraid of the regime or kind of going along with it. But now at the level of West Africa, the economic community of West African states, that's where we have a lot of contention going on. A few years ago, the reactionary forces dominated, but we were still able to get some resolutions passed in our favor, as well as end some of the abusive regimes that were here. Like, for example, when the former President Joe Mof's term of office ended, he didn't want to leave office, but we forced through ECOWAS them to have another change of government, to bring in a government that will lead to elections. They helped. Similar to the one who's right now the incumbent expired president whose term ended on the 27th of February, almost 6 months ago now. When he was the illegal prime minister, it was through our interventions with ECOWAS that ended his term. So we don't give up on ECOWAS. We don't depend on them to resolve all of our problems, so we cannot give up on them. But that's when Buhari, the late Buhari, who just passed away, was the president of Nigeria, had a lot of influence in ECOWAS. He's like the quote-unquote father of this neo-colonial puppet, expired president Umaru Sissoko Embalo, who some of us call Sikoko. But you also at that time had his big brother, Macky Sall, was the president of Senegal. And you had Nana Addo, was the president of Ghana, who's also aligned with him. Because, you know, there's like a neo-colonial club among them. But now things have changed. Now in Ghana you have John Dramani Mahama, who is not an ally with this regime. You have Tinubu in Senegal, in Nigeria. He's not an ally of the PIGC, but he's not a close ally of this regime. He's not like the predecessor, Buhari was. But in Senegal, you had the biggest change because we went from Macky Sall now to having Diomaye Faye as the president, and Ousmane Sonko was the prime minister, who at the same time serves as the president of the PASTEF party. And we have a close ally who's the vice president, brother Comrade Jallo Job. So the situation has changed for us. But unfortunately, we have not been able to get everything we want. When the ECOWAS sent a high-level political commission here in February, the regime tried to block them from meeting with the legitimate leadership of the National People's Assembly, as well as tried to block them from meeting with some of the allies of the PIGC, different political parties, and the civil society organization. But after a few days, a picture taken with the regime, they had the courage to meet with the real leadership of the National People's Assembly. Because the regime has done a coup inside of the National People's Assembly, as we informed you earlier. In addition to illegally, unconstitutionally dissolving the National People's Assembly, they've appointed what they call an interim president of the National People's Assembly, which you cannot do. Of course, not under the Constitution, but even under imagination. Because when the deputies are elected, they're elected to serve into the following election. And not even when the election's over, when the following winners of the legislative elections take their posts when they inaugurate it. That hasn't happened. That's the first major violation. First major violation was dissolving the National People's Assembly 3 months after the elections, whereas the Constitution says you have to wait at least a year. The second major violation was after they illegally, unconstitutionally dissolved the National People's Assembly. They didn't allow the Permanent Commission to meet. which the word permanent is the key word here. According to the Constitution, the permanent commission stays in place and two new deputies are inaugurated. The third major violation is how can you appoint somebody to an elected position? So they're really like just abusing our patience and even our intelligence, but not our courage. We're still fighting against them. We'll win this one. Just like with the Supreme Court of Justice. According to the Constitution, you have 4 deputies that are elected from the National People's Assembly. They go to the Supreme Court to help organize the elections. They didn't obey that. They appointed people. After they had surrounded the house of the former president of the Supreme Court, who's really legitimate president of the Supreme Court, surrounded his house with guns and masks on for 3 days to intimidate him, as well as surrounded the Supreme Court building. So now they've had illegal so-called elections there, just like they're trying to hang on to this expired national half full and National Electoral Council, whose term ended in April 2022. So these are the clear violations because they're so desperate. Some people might interpret this meaning they think they have a lot of power. No, it's desperation. It's like when you're on a ship in the high ocean, and you don't know how to swim, the ship starts to sink. Even you see a branch of a tree or even a leaf passing by, you say, let me grab this to save my life. It won't save your life. So most of us, we anticipate that they will try to postpone the elections again. Because after going all throughout the country without us even having any rallies, they say they have to pay a few people to come. Just to give you an example, inside of one of the biggest neighborhoods of all of Guinea Bissau, which is surrounded by other neighborhoods, a place called Barter Military, they tried to organize a rally there where they gave money to the president of the neighborhood association. But with all of that, even him himself, he had to say, the first words that came out of his mouth when he was saying this welcome word, I'm sorry, we thought we were going to get other people here, maybe it's because of the casualty, He couldn't get them. Because even, and I was around that area that day, I heard the average citizen say, they can't buy me. They can give me 10,000, save it for them, I'll take them, and I still won't go there. So that's what happened. So everywhere they're going is just being weak. They even tried to go into the schools to get the school children to come to some of their rallies inside the country. And when the school children come close to the rally, say, we're hungry, because there's a lot of strikes going on right now, repeatedly, in the health sector, which is always causes deaths, because they have no human consciousness. You have a whole region that doesn't have one single doctor, but we have enough doctors to be in that region. It's because they're trying to do those retrenchment programs that are imposed by the IMF and the World Bank. You know, they say that we're using 80% of our budget to pay salaries. And the largest sectors where salaries are paid, of course, are our priorities, which is education, health, and agriculture. So they've been laying off people from those areas, which we need so much. So they're in big trouble. We'll continue to organize. And despite any type of repression, what we have noticed is that no matter how much they repress our people become stronger. They've even repressed some of the leaders of our party, grandmothers, tortured them, but they came out even stronger. Meanwhile, those few parties that supported Umar Sissoko Embalo in 2020 when they stole the elections, so you can at least try to legitimize to where, okay, I got to represent for this different ethnic group, this different group, they're not supporting him anymore. So that's really got him going crazy. So now he's trying to block people's eyes by taking one or two of them and say, okay, now we're reconciling. But the organizations are not with them. So they're in big trouble. So everything's in our favor. All we do is to make sure we keep on organizing. And those who are seeing this video should make sure you're more active. Because this is not the individual struggle. It's the humanity struggle, particularly Pan-Africanists. Because the PID is a Pan-African party, and every time it takes power, it's transforming society to our power. Sometimes it doesn't seem like we lost power because we're still organizing. Even as I talk to you, we're organizing. So, okay, my sisters, comrades, brothers and sisters, want to tell you that victory is for us. We're going to win this one. We give you a big Incrumis, Cabralis, tourist hug with revolutionary fervor. And as always, we're ready for the revolution.